Hello, welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast show, which was going to be slightly different today. Before there was some breaking news that just dropped of a new Wall Street Journal article that has just been released. More details on the whole Vince McMahon stuff that's been happening lately. Because what we heard from a few weeks ago, was that Vince McMahon was going to be under investigation by a special group of people on the WWE board of directors. We're going to investigate this whole situation with a paralegal. They had a sexual relationship, and she was paid $3 million to essentially not talk about it. It's essentially an NDA to have her not talk about it. But the Wall Street Journal have now come out with a new article, which has new stuff in it. So I'm just going to quote some stuff, and then Denise, I'll throw to you for some thoughts. So the opening bit of this article says that Vince McMahon, World Wrestling Entertainment Inc.'s longtime leader, agreed to pay more than $12 million over the past 16 years to suppress allegations of sexual misconduct and infidelity, an amount far larger than previously known. So this is essentially just adding on from what we'd heard before. This is just more instances of essentially the same thing, but slightly different because they do give some different examples in this one. So they said the payouts went to 4 women, all formerly affiliated with WWE, who signed agreements with Mr. McMahon that prohibit them from discussing potential legal claims against or their relationships with the 76-year-old executive, according to people familiar with the deals, as well as documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. The previously unreported settlements include a $7.5 million pact with a former wrestler who alleged that Mr. McMahon coerced her into giving him oral sex and then demoted her, and ultimately declined to renew her contract in 2005 after she resisted further sexual encounters, according to people familiar with the matter. The wrestler and her attorney approached Mr. McMahon in 2018 and negotiated the payment in return for her silence, the people said. So that is a bit different from what we'd heard before from this previous case. This is...
And there's still more. There's still more, which is kind of crazy.
I'm just going to apologize to you, Denise, and to the chat and to everyone watching and stuff on catch up. I'm not in a good mental space today, so this is all throwing me through a loop. I apologize if I don't make the best content today, but
no worries. Well, I'll have your back, man. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start and, just, initial thoughts and whatnot. And then, kind of go over some of the other stuff that was kind of brought up as well. First and foremost, obviously this has been something that was already, you mentioned we had already known about the $3 million hush pact, etc. That was the big conversation. And, since then it's kind of been like a waiting game. Like, when is more information going to be coming out? When are we going to know stuff? When is the investigation going to, start showing some sort of anything, right? And let's kind of rewind a little bit though, because when this news broke, immediately afterwards, we saw Vince McMahon kind of make it was a little bit of a slap in the face to the seriousness of the investigation and the allegations and everything that came out originally when he came out on SmackDown to a cheering crowd, okay? A cheering crowd. And that, to me, I kind of felt like I was a little bit in the twilight zone, because when that happened, when the news first broke, I would say, for the most part, I know Twitter's not the best indicator of where people are at in the general consensus and all of that. But for the most part, I feel that most people on Twitter were kind of like, dude, this is it. This is wrong. Come on. Like, we got to do something about this. And obviously there was going to be a couple of people that were like, we don't care. We see nothing wrong with this and that. I put that this was a very bad thing on Twitter when that story initially broke, and instantly people were just like, shitting on that. I'm like, how are you shitting? Like, this is a serious topic, like a serious conversation. And people were like, no, it's no big deal. We see nothing wrong with it. I'm like, all right, whatever. There's no argument with those kind of people. And then on top of that, you get a positive reception on SmackDown and then on Raw. And I forgot the appearances that he made, right? People were cheering him on. And even though it was like a very quick, like, he came out, said a couple of words, nothing much, and then just left. And that, to me, like, when I remember coming on here on my show and saying, like, when Vince McMahon came out and got this like cheering reaction from the people, it was kind of like him saying like, it's all right, guys, look at me, I'm still loved, everything's okay. And it would kind of gave him like, I don't want to say good publicity, but for people that maybe weren't so informed or didn't know, or maybe were on the fence, when you come out and see somebody that, is going through an investigation like this, and then they come out and they get cheered by people, you're going to be like, oh, well, I guess, things are okay, but whatever. So we fast forward to this now, and I saw this as I was making my breakfast, and I thought, yep, that topic with me and Adam is not happening today on WrestleTalk. And instantly, and this was something that I had already, been thinking about prior, but more so today with the further information that has come out, the larger sums of money, it still has not been fully indicated on here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they haven't actually said if this was his money or the company's money just yet, right? No. Okay, so we still don't know.
The money was paid, that's all.
Right, so we still don't know that aspect of it, which is a big portion of this. But another thing that is a big portion of this is the sexual misconduct that we are seeing here, some of which you just read right now. So I want to start off by saying here that at this point, when is enough in the sense that I truly believe at this point right now that WWE needs to somehow disconnect from Vince McMahon, get rid of Vince now. Like, this is it. Like, now you cannot have this, he's still running, obviously, he's no longer the CEO. We have interim CEO, Stephanie McMahon. That's fine and dandy, but he's still running creative. And so they have to get rid of him entirely. And I know that some people are like, well, how can they get rid of him, etc. It's simple. Pressure. I think pressure needs to be put, whether it be from sponsors, whether it be from the networks, Fox, USA, etc. The board, Stephanie McMahon herself, all of these external, internal factors need to play a part into people finally saying, okay, you know what? This is a really bad look for the company. The fact that you're still taking part in creative, like, that's it. They need to disconnect from Vince McMahon here and, let this stuff, as the investigation continues, Pete, you just know that there is going to be more stories coming out. If we think that this is it, it's not. This is not going to be it. There's going to be more people coming out, more people comfortable with saying, saying their experiences or whatever they went through with the company. And so it is one of those things where I think now, for the sake of the company and for the sake of, people that work there and just the sake of the company, I think they need to get rid of Vince.
Yeah. And the thing is, like you're saying, more of these stories coming out. I haven't even finished reading the Wall Street Journal article yet. Like, there's still more of it that I've not read yet. But I totally agree with everything you're saying. With him making his appearance that he did on the last time that he came out, people would have seen, if they'd have watched my SmackDown reviews or whatever, I was an angry boy the day afterwards, because that was, like you said, a slap in the face to everyone with him coming out and getting that cheering reaction and everyone adoring what he was doing. I didn't have the nicest of statements to say to him, and I feel very similar now. This next bit of this saying, in another previously unreported deal, this is the quote from the Wall Street Journal article, a WWE contractor presented the company with unsolicited nude photos of Mr. McMahon she reportedly received from him, and alleged that he had sexually harassed her on the job, according to people familiar with the woman's 2008 non-disclosure agreement. Mr. McMahon agreed to pay her roughly $1 million, these people said. So I saw a lot of people, like you said, people who on the previous, previous allegations that came out, people were saying, well, they just had a consensual sexual relationship. There's not much wrong there. It's only infidelity. Sure, he cheated on his wife, but there's nothing wrong with that. I don't agree with those people, but I saw a lot of people saying this. This is now getting into sexual misconduct, unsolicited news. This is sexual harassment at this point, and there is a lot wrong with that. So yeah, this is now getting into even more serious territory than it was in before.
And I thought that was interesting from the very beginning, because people were like, to me, I'm sorry, Pete, but it was very obvious that it wasn't just a consensual thing. Because if it's consensual and it's just an affair, and okay, he cheated on his wife, and that's not really like, well, that's morally wrong. That's not like technically legally wrong, right? Well, technically it kind of is, right? But you get what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
So the point that I'm trying to get at is like a lot of people were saying like, oh, he just had an affair, no big deal, whoop-de-doo. But it was so obvious that it was more than that, because why offer to pay this a mass amounts of money to somebody you just had a consensual affair with? Like, it wasn't lining up whatsoever. And, so that to me was like an instant red flag of no, that can't be possibly right. Because again, why would you pay that a large amount of money? And I know some people would be like, oh, to keep it from his wife and this and that. But come on, like let's really think about this. Could that have been the only thing? Probably not. And you probably could have, let's say if it was just to keep it away from your wife, $3 million to keep it away from your wife? Probably not. I think they could probably go a little lower,
Yeah, and especially because, after the first Wall Street Journal article came out, I think it was Dave Meltzer was saying on Wrestling Observer Radio that he and Linda McMahon are technically still together, but they've been separated for like years now. They've been apart for ages. So like, to him, it probably even doesn't really matter if Linda would find out. I don't know.
Right.
That's just, speculation on my part.
Exactly.
Like it doesn't seem like it's the biggest deal to him for this news to reach Linda's ears kind of thing. So yeah.
Exactly. That's why when they said like consensual, and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I don't really think so, but fine. You know what? I'll take your word for it for right now. And then let's see what eventually comes out. But I think it was pretty obvious right from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. This next section of the Wall Street, we're still going. Wall Street Journal says, and in a 2006 agreement, a former manager who had worked 10 years for Mr. McMahon before he allegedly initiated a sexual relationship with her was paid $1 million to keep quiet about it, according to the people familiar with the deal. So that's just another one. There's also stuff not just about Vince
We're at
as well.
3 now. Isn't it?
So that's
3?
So that's 4, including the previous one.
Including the previous one. So there's the previous one, and then we got details on 3 more here today.
Yes. And as implicated in the previous Wall Street Journal article as well, John Laurinaitis was also part of those as well, which is why he was kind of taken away from his head of talent relations role as part of his the previous Wall Street Journal article. There's also more on Johnny Ace in this one as well. Which says that, there's the first bit that says about the previous article. So additionally, the board is looking at a $1.5 million non-disclosure agreement reached in 2012 with an employee involving misconduct claims against Mr. Laurinaitis, these people said. So that is another, another instance, another allegation against John Laurinaitis, which is slightly different from the one that came out in the other article as well. So this is quite obviously, to me, this is a huge systemic issue within WWE. I cannot see this being an isolated incident, and I cannot seeing this be just Vince and just Johnny Ace. Like, to me, that is just not how this sort of stuff works when you're at the top of this, billion-dollar company.
Well, the report did state here that Mr. McMahon's affairs at the company were common knowledge, according to former WWE employees. Now, they said, whether that means talent or not talent, or just like employees, I'm thinking that's like people, obviously like within the office and that type of, portion. So the fact that it was common knowledge should probably answer that question.
Yeah. I was trying to see if there was any more on this. I don't think there is any more details on this one. It was saying that the Wall Street Journal article says that they don't know if the current investigation that the board is doing into Vince McMahon will also cover these other ones that have now been revealed, or whether they're just sticking to the one that they were already previously investigating with the paralegal that we've spoken about before.
It might be like a chain reaction sort of thing. Like you start uncovering one thing, then you uncover another thing. And, that's kind of how everything sort of snowballs. So I think that's probably where they're at. And we kind of knew this already too. Yes, they had said in that original article that they were going to be investigating, not just this particular first issue that we were talking about, but the ones even, before that. And, for this one, for example, the one about the $7.5 million pact. That one goes back to, a talent that her contract was declined to be renewed in 2005. And so then, they're the ones that basically reportedly approached Mr. McMahon in 2018 and negotiated the payment in return for her silence. So that is dating back, to 2005, but, as recent as 2018. So that kind of maybe gives you an idea of where they might be during this. And then also the same thing for the one about the nude photos. This was also, according to people familiar with the Women's 2008 non-disclosure agreement. So again, another talent, around this period in time. There's also one about the 2006. So I feel like that's kind of giving me like a rough estimate of where they might be at. But again, I feel it's one of those things where like, if somebody is, seeing this and seeing it unfold, they're probably, you never know who's keeping quiet. In these types of cases, you always see people like, maybe once they see all of this stuff come out, they're like, you know what, maybe the information I have can be of service to this situation, right? So maybe that's why these more stories are coming out, and also like possible more stories come out where people are more willing to speak. And of course, a lot of them cannot because, they were paid in return for their silence. So that's something, to navigate that they have to navigate around. So I definitely think there's going to be more stories coming out, and this just proves it. I mean, look at this. When was it? Like what? Okay, so when the first report came out, the $3 million one, like how long ago was that? A couple weeks ago, right?
A couple weeks ago.
It was right before like Money in the Bank, maybe like 2 weeks before Money in the Bank, 3 weeks before Money in the Bank.
Something like that. Yeah, it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
All right. Yeah. And so let's just say like a month. All right, whatever, a month.
Sure.
And look at how much more information we already got so far. And I'm pretty sure they're sitting on stuff that has probably not yet been able to, reveal or to put out there to the public just yet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Like, I mean, this was like one of the first things that when me and Ollie first did a video about this sort of stuff breaking, when me and Ollie first discussed it, one of the first things he said was, this is only the first time this has been mentioned. Like this sort of behavior, you don't get caught the first time. That's not how this works. He would have been doing this in secret way before this stuff comes out. And I think this is just proof of that. And I still, like you say, I don't think the well is dry yet. I think we still have many more of these to come.
I also want to say one thing. I know that, because I know that us as humans, the curiosity is there of like, oh, who is it? And I know because if I feel they gave enough, unfortunately, there's enough details in here for people to like piece together the puzzle of who they might believe these people are. And I just want to say, like, first and foremost, that I think it's going to suck. I think it's going to suck when people feel that they have uncovered who these names are. Because it's like, damn, I'm sorry, but it just really sucks to know that somebody's negative experience in their life is, it's just like if this was like me and I went through something like this, I would feel really shitty when and if people discovered my name and who it was that had to go through this. So I do want to say, like, I feel really bad that I know people are already out there speculating on who these people are. And I know curiosity is like going to get the best of us. We all love the scandal and the drama and all of that. But I do think that it's best to not, mention who you think it might be or anything like that, because these are real people. And right now, these horrors from the past are they're just coming back. They're resurfacing, and you don't know like what they might be feeling right now or all of that. So that's one of the ugly portions of this too, is that there's going to be, and there's going to be people that harass those people. And that's very unfortunate. So I just kind of want to say that. I know that normal people are not going to go out and be like, hey, we think it's you, blah, blah, blah. But there are going to be people that don't have such a great head on their shoulders that are going to be, attacking the people they think is tied to the details that were put on here and all of that, people connecting the dots, etc., which really sucks. And it's the ugly part of this. And unfortunately, it's like, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. In that, people are curious. People want to know the answers to stuff, and there might not even be malintent in people trying to find out the
Yeah.
names of who people are. But once you do, if you do, it's not good to publicize that stuff, because then that just leads to, like you said, harassment. Because there are going to be people, there will always be people that will defend people like Vince McMahon, and they will go out their way to try and harass whoever these people may be. So just don't be a dick. There you go. That's the golden rule of life, I think. Don't be a dick.
It's the golden rule is treat others how you'd like to be treated.
Sure. But also don't be a dick.
Well, there you go. If you're going to be a dick, expect people to be a dick back to you. If you're going to be nice, then you need to treat others how you'd like to be treated. You want to be treated like a dick, then fine, go be a dick, right? Then people are going to treat you like that. So, anyways, but it's just one of those things that, like, I feel like, right, okay, so when this story first broke, initially, my first thing was, man, like, they're going to get rid of Vince McMahon as CEO, like, instantly, right? And that did happen. That happened very quickly. Now, but... And, a lot of people were like, well, that doesn't really do anything because he's still part of creative. And they're right in that sense. It was really, I think, kind of a way for them to, try to look good and all of this and, that sort of thing. But I do think that, sorry, I lost my train of thought of where I was going. Oh, yeah. So now in terms of like follow-up steps, I would be very surprised if we don't start hearing or seeing the effects that whatever effects, whether it be from the networks or sponsors or other people that have the ability to maybe, cause some change, I feel like we're going to start seeing the effects of that. Now, the other thing, and I know this is kind of like more of a running joke, a lot of people saying like, oh, Vince McMahon is going to pop up on SmackDown today, right? God, I hope not. And like, I know it's a joke and people are joking like, oh, Vince McMahon going to show up on SmackDown. I know it's a joke, but part of me is like, well, what if he does? I'm not really putting past, Vince to come out on SmackDown. And today, I think it would be even worse to do so because it's like now there's just, more details rather. And I'm not even gonna say because the details on the last one were bad too. Like the one where, God, what was it? Like, what was that quote? I remember it stuck in my head for a second where the person said the person was passed around like a toy, passed around like a toy. And I remember seeing that and being like, my goodness, like that within itself is like really poor imagery of, somebody's situation. And so now you got all of these other stuff, being forced to give oral sex and being demoted and then having your contract essentially not be renewed because you wouldn't give oral sex. Getting unsolicited nude photos. That's not fun. Jesus. And then, that it just adds to it, right? Like it adds to the imagery of all of this.
Yeah. If and this is a big if Vince comes out on SmackDown, I'm reviewing SmackDown tomorrow, so people are going to see me very angry if that's the case. The swear jar will be full on tomorrow's SmackDown review stream, let me tell you. Because that is what's the word I'm looking for? Disgusting. That's a word. That's a word I'll go with.
It's more so of like being rubbed in your face, like, ha, you tried to take me down and you can't. Mm-hmm. Look at everybody loves me and this is still my company. And a lot of people also read that as like, well, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. We're all going down together, that sort of thing. So people, saw it not saw it differently, but people noticed different things during this. And even though it was a very short segment and not a lot was done, I feel like even in that little portion, you were able to like read between the lines and really just like get a lot out of that.
Yeah. It's I'm really like caught up in myself right now. I totally agree with everything you're saying, and I really hope that, like you said, someone takes action, whether it be Stephanie or the board of directors or someone, that they take more action than just being like, he'll step down for a bit and we'll have an interim CEO. I hope that people put more pressure on him, because that was one of the things that I said to Ollie when the first article came out, was I think in order for actual change to happen, an outside pressure needs to come in. It's like the example that I gave off the top of my head was the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, where they named it that. They were going to go ahead with it. The fans weren't very happy, and they were like, doesn't matter. Let's throw to video packages of people calling him a trailblazer and it'll be fine. But then when sponsors threaten to say, actually, we're not going to sponsor this thing, and then they go, now we need to change that. Let's actually switch that round. So I'm hoping that there's at least something that motivates Vince McMahon to just step away permanently. Like, not, I'm going to step down for a bit while the investigation happens, but just leave WWE. Because I think even from, like you said, just from like a PR perspective, WWE can't be linked to this man for much longer. Because even if he gets past this thing, this isn't the end. There's going to be more of this stuff coming out. There always will be more stuff like this coming out. When stuff like this goes back and is as systemic a problem as it is in WWE, for a man who's been in charge for as long as he has, this is going to go back for decades. This is stuff that has been going on for ages and will come out consistently for years to come. So I think they need to, as a company, for their company image, they need to cut their losses and get rid of Vince ASAP.
Right.
But,
and I will say this. I feel like the one thing Vince has going for him is that wrestling is not necessarily at the, it doesn't get the same attention that, other entertainment, pop culture related establishments, companies, shows, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't get the same attention. He's kind of lucky in the sense that like wrestling is more in its own little corner of the universe, having its own, well, in our world, it may seem differently because we're all invested and we're fans and this and that. On the outsider's world, it's like, oh, it's wrestling. Well, that's, people see wrestling as like carny and, just like circus type of stuff. And, there's a lot of negative connotations connected to pro wrestling for a lot of reasons. And, I know we don't see it that way. We don't really see it that way, but the outside people see it that way. And so sometimes I think that Vince McMahon, and especially the last time, like think about like how many people do you think would have been able to get away with that if Vince McMahon, somebody was accused of, this report came out of somebody and then they came out and did something like Vince did where he comes out and gets cheered by the crowd. How many people can legitimately get away with something like that if this was non-wrestling, non-WWE? I don't know if there's any samples of that right now. I mean, if somebody in the chat has a great one, then that'd be fantastic. But I don't know anybody that can get away with that.
No, I don't know either. Wrestling is that's what one of the great things about wrestling is. It's such a unique piece of media. Like there is nothing like wrestling in the world, which is a really good positive. It's also a really big negative because it allows wrestling to get away with some stuff that you would not be able to get away with in any other facet of life. And yeah, like you say, I think of people, I think of like celebrities, and there's so many celebrity stories of like a celebrity who did something very minor, right? Or like something, just like whatever, right? Maybe not something like, I'm not saying not bad, but I'm saying not to the level of this. And they lose like brand deals, sponsorships, show spots, all of this stuff. Like I've seen so many samples of this, of celebrities basically like, oh, they said something in 2000 something. And all of a sudden it's like they lose all their brand deals. And that's just something they said, something that they tweeted, right? And I'm not saying that's not bad, right? But there's levels to like, there's levels to it. Like in terms of like all the stuff that's coming out with Vince and an old tweet, for example, but because those people are in a different, a different area of entertainment, the light is a lot, I don't say harsher, but it's just on them, And that's not to say people that doesn't happen to people in wrestling, but it's just, I think it's a little bit different. I've seen people lose a lot more for a lot less. There you go. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I will say that people in the chat have a great example of WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump did kind of the same thing of doing horrible things and then it coming out and then getting cheered and coming out immediately. But you can draw a lot of parallels between Vince and Trump. Not going to try and get into politics here as much as possible.
Bless your heart, Pete. Bless your heart, because it's a whole different. I think I don't want to say it's a whole different topic. Yeah, it's a whole different topic. I'm trying to find the right words for it. It's a whole different topic, but at the same time, it could be connected to what we're talking about right now. But I feel like that's an entirely different podcast for a different time.
Yeah, and probably not one for this channel. I just punched my mic.
We got our hands full already with Vince McMahon, and we weren't even planning on talking about Vince like prior to that. At least I wasn't. I thought I was going to come on here and just get yelled at by Adam or something. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's going to be an easy Friday. No big deal.
I was having a really good day, despite my messed up head, because I have a new video that's going out on the main WrestleTalk channel tomorrow that I made from complete scratch, and it was like a complete thing. I didn't have any guidance on it. I was like, I'm just going to make this thing because I really want to, and I'm going to put all this stuff in it. I knew what I wanted it to be like, and it came out, and I showed it to Ollie, and he was like, wow, this is amazing. You did really well. And I was like, yay, that's great. I hope it's a really good video. So I was having a good day.
I feel like also I just want to say coming on here to talk about something like this, and whoever, everybody that comes out on a public forum to talk about something of this nature, it's not an easy thing to do. It's a very sensitive topic, and it's not an easy thing to do. And I remember seconds before you and I went live on this stream, I just looked at you and I was like, yay, we're the lucky ones. Let's go. And it is something that is difficult to talk about because there are going to be people out there with different opinions and different beliefs, and but you just got to come out and do what you need to do and say what you feel you need to say.
Yes. I will say as well that obviously there's going to be almost certainly more updates to this story. I know that Sean was saying that he's probably going to have some stuff on Fightful Select later. There's probably going to be updates to this coming out in the coming
Yeah, he had some good stuff too in terms of the reactions from people to Vince McMahon's. He hasn't posted anything just yet. Sorry, I was just checking. But he did have some updates of people's reactions to Vince coming out on SmackDown when that happened. That was interesting too, because I remember coming on here and I forgot, did I do the show with you or who did I do the show with? Was it with Tempest? I forgot who I did the show with when the announcement was made that Vince was going to be coming out on SmackDown. And I remember
I think that was Tempest.
Yeah. And I said, Vince is going to do an us against the world thing. And that is essentially what he did. He didn't go outright and say it, but read between the lines, bro. He said it. He did it. That was the intentions. Together, we all, that sort of thing. And so anyways, when Sean put that post out on Fightful Select, there was some talent that also saw it the same way, and so that was kind of interesting to see just kind of some of the parallels of, what the talent saw or how they interpreted the entire thing, right?
Yeah. And also, of course, make sure to check out WrestleTalk.com because that will also have updates through the day and all that stuff. Go check that out for your up-to-date wrestling news. God, I don't have much more to say about this stuff. It's horrible. It's horrific. We have our thoughts about it, and I hope at this point that this spells the beginning of the end for Vince McMahon in WWE, because this man has had power for too long. That's essentially how I feel. I have nothing else to say.
Do we have any ultra chats or anything from the people?
Let's do some ultra chats. Let's send them in. Send them in to WrestleTalk.com/support if you have any thoughts and feelings. I'm sure all of them are going to be great. Mayor of Painesville, Dan, said, thank you, Pete. Thank you, Denise. Thank you to the both of you for steaming ahead with such a difficult topic. I admire your professionalism. This sucks for everyone that loves WWE. Big hugs to you. And if you don't mind, please give Adam a hug from me, Pete. I will try my best next time I see him. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. Charles Berg said, well, shoot. I sent my chat intending to have a little fun at Denise's expense. But now with the thumbnail change, I come off like a rude little bitch. So sorry.
What was the initial thing that he wrote?
I don't know. It doesn't say it here.
Damn.
I think any that was sent in before we changed what we were going to talk about.
Dude, we changed it 10 minutes before we went on the air, man.
Yeah.
It was funny too because Adam hit me up and he was like, hey, Denise, you're good to talk about this. I was like, bro, I figured that was what was going to happen. We would have looked so dumb coming on here and be talking about, no offense, but we would have looked dumb right now coming on here to talk about Quizzlemania when there's this very serious topic to talk about,
Yeah. So I think the ones that were sent in before, they're either going to be included on tomorrow's SmackDown and Rampage review, where it's a bit more appropriate to talk about that stuff, or they might just be refunded as a whole. So you're not going to lose out on your money's worth, regardless. Not just going to not read it, but Yeah, just so they're aware. Don't think they're going to be read here about like Quizzlemania and stuff because it doesn't feel like the right place to do it right now. But Charles Berg said, so sorry and thanks, Vince. I can always rely on him to completely ruin any fun I thought I'd have. Sounds about right. Yeah. Mr. CJ Lilly said, hey, Pete and Denise, on the Vince thing. Okay, I'm going to really try and not get into politics. I'm just going to read what the chat says and then that's that.
Don't worry. I'll cancel you right now, Pete.
It ain't me that's saying it. I see a lot of parallels with the current situations in British politics where both Vince and Boris seem like they're stepping down, but aren't. Is it a conservative thing to literally scrap to keep their power?
I can't comment on that because I don't know anything about what's going on with British politics. Like, even if I tried, I have no idea. And I'm very sorry about that for being uneducated. But I'm very sorry. Apologies to the British.
That's a strong no comment from me on that one.
You can tell me off air what's happening because I don't know what's happening. All I know is I saw somebody saying on Twitter that I don't even know. I saw a bunch of stuff on Twitter and I was like, oh, I'll figure out later. There's a lot going on. We got tons of issues here too.
Yeah. A lot of people in the government resigned. The most ever in like a very short space of time.
Because of the prime minister?
Because they wanted the prime minister to leave, basically. To stop being the prime minister.
I see. No wonder somebody tweeted me. They were like, oh, Denise could be a prime minister. And I was like, what? What are you guys talking about? What? Like, what the hell is going on that I'm now an option for a prime minister? At least to this one person on Twitter. It was a joke, though. Like, don't take it seriously. It was a joke.
Could be anyone, you know. Ten Rosa said, yeah, he's done. He's finally been got. Steph needs to be made permanent. A mass exodus needs to happen backstage, and a huge restructure and maybe even a sale needs to happen. Hunter and Steph need to be put in charge. Also love to Japan and the Abe family.
I think that's something we should talk about, too, is Stephanie, because, you know, Sean did have a report out there about, you know, the talent being like, very happy that Stephanie was named interim CEO, etc. And then I spoke to a lot of talent over during Money in the Bank weekend, and I asked Bianca Belair, I asked Sarah Schreiber, I asked Titus O'Neil, Jimmy Hart, you know, all these people, like their thoughts on Stephanie being interim CEO, and like, I mean, obviously, even if somebody had, like, let's say somebody wanted to say, like, oh, I'm not a fan. Obviously, they weren't going to say it, but they literally went above and beyond to, like, really put her over and say nice things about her. So that's why I'm like, you know what? I take that as legit, you know? I feel like I haven't seen any talent be, like, feeling disgruntled about her being in that position. Like, for the most part, everybody has said really nice, thoughtful things about Stephanie. So I think that's a good, that's good. That's positive. You want to like the person that is, I don't want to, should I say in charge? But I don't like in charge with quotation point. I don't know.
Yeah, it's in charge.
Yeah, in charge.
It's the figurehead of the company.
Right.
Sure.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, there was a report. I can't remember who reported it, but there was a report that came out. It might have been Sean actually. They're saying that there was a lot of people who were like really thrilled about Stephanie McMahon being in power and like really going out of the way to be like, oh, we really like Steph. Really glad that she's back from her hiatus. Really glad that she's the interim CEO. So that's great. That's really positive. If that is the case.
Yeah, Mickie James had some really nice things to say to Stephanie as well too during that. I remember seeing that too, and I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
Especially considering like a lot of what went down with Mickie James and WWE, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very fair. There was another thing that just reminded me. I saw someone in the chat say that actually there was one of the WWE board of directors actually just quit as well.
Yeah, I just thought, wasn't that like yesterday or 2 days ago? A couple days ago.
I think it was. Yeah, it was a couple of days ago, right? Which apparently wasn't linked to any of this. The reason given was that they had more responsibilities come up with other things that they do, because a lot of the board of directors, they have other companies and stuff that they run, so that's that they have more responsibilities in their other company, which is totally possible and totally reasonable and totally feasible. The timing is still interesting, I would say.
It's icky. Like part of me thought when you first read the headline, right, your automatic assumption is, oh, because of everything that's been going on, right? But then the other part of it is kind of like, sorry, my stomach's making noises. And I was like, can you hear that on camera? Sorry. So the other part of it, so when I first saw the headline, I thought, oh, it has to do with, the allegations and everything, the investigation, everything going on. But then afterwards, once I, read the story, read the article, it was him basically saying, he had other, responsibilities with his other job or role or whatever. And so I believe it. Part of me wonders if he's just really good at, like, I don't want to say, I feel like it could be even like partly true where he may have all these other responsibilities, but at the same time, I don't want to be associated with this,
Exactly, yeah. And like I said, the timing is just interesting to me. It's just worth noting. That's all I'd say. Sheldon Jackson said, Vince must step down immediately from everything related to WWE. And if he doesn't, either the board or investors must force Vince to step down permanently, regardless of whatever voting power he has.
Right.
I'd like that.
Right.
That'd be nice. Joe Brum said, I do a podcast about games on the Group Quest feed, and Activision had it worse than Vince, but this is not over. It took 2 years, and we as players are still not through it. It will take a long time for wrestling fans to get through this.
Right, yeah, and that's okay. Fair. And I don't know much about the game. I don't know, and I'm not even gonna say I don't know much. I don't know anything about the gaming world, so I can't even pretend to chime in on that.
Yeah. Some rough stuff has come out in the allegations of the Activision world. So yeah, I know what you're talking about, and yeah, it's not good. JW Pringle said, I don't think Vince will step down. What would he step down to? His relationship with his wife and children are a question mark at best. The company is all he has, and I think he will hold on to it until his last breath. Just my opinion.
I wouldn't be surprised, It's like, you got to understand too, like, the person's character. Vince McMahon seems like somebody with a lot of ego and a lot of pride. And so he might seem like the kind of person that, again, if I'm going down, I'm taking everything with me, that sort of person, versus like, you know what, company I built in trouble, it's my fault. Maybe I step away. It depends on the person, right?
Yeah.
Totally. All we can do right now is make assumptions as to what he may or may not be thinking.
Yeah, I think there's probably more of the former, in that he will stay as long as he can, and I think he will need to be forced out.
Yeah,
I don't think he will go willingly at all.
But in order to be forced out, there's got to be action. There's got to be action by people whose actions, like if for example, if like random Joe Schmo goes out and tweet and it's like, I'm gonna stop watching Raw and SmackDown because of this, that ain't gonna make a change, right? Like, no. It's got to be, somebody that, again, like I said, it's somebody from the networks or the sponsors or investors or whatever, somebody like that has actual monetary, involvement in the company to essentially pull out or anything, like something, make some sort of change. And that perspective is the only way that we're going to see anything actually change.
Yeah, exactly. 10 Rosa said, do you guys think this will affect the TV negotiations at all? And has the company's value been affected by this? You think people will be continuing to ask for releases?
I would say more so the perception of the company for sure.
Yeah, I think it depends how mainstream this stuff goes, because I think for stuff that like we were talking about earlier with the Activision stuff, they still make a lot of games and people still play a lot of their games because they make games that people want to play. And so people play them, even with all the terrible corporate stuff happening behind the scenes. So maybe the public perception of it.
Blame, if you're still playing the games or something like that. It's like, damn, you can't stop life's joys.
Yeah, right. So, and it gets to a point where, like, if you're watching WWE, does that make you, complicit with what Vince is doing? Probably not, because there's so many people that are involved in WWE that make what you're watching.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just one guy.
Like, that's why we're saying, Vince should step away from WWE for the sake of WWE. I don't want WWE to die. I don't want the company to go down whatsoever. Like, that's not the intentions here. Like, there are still, like, I don't know how to explain it. There's obviously a bunch of people working there, a bunch of talent that, I consider myself a fan of. People here listening to the show consider themselves a fan of. And like, I know regardless of the tribalism and every, the war, AEW versus WWE, regardless of all of that, like, it would be terrible if WWE just, blew up and that was it. It would be terrible. And I know some people would be like, no, it wouldn't be Denise. No, yes, it would.
It would be. Because it's not like, all of those viewers would then go and watch AEW and wrestling would thrive again or anything like that. It would just be a dent to wrestling.
No, and it shouldn't be like a either or type of thing. No.
Exactly. So yeah, no, I totally agree. But I think it depends how much people care that this story is in the mainstream, because you can have a mainstream story break on news and stuff and people go like, all right. Or like, if not a lot of people read that article, if it doesn't get enough clicks, then it doesn't really matter. The perception is going to stay the same because not enough people really care. But maybe this gets picked up. Maybe this is a thing that, people get behind and it forces people to take action. People will tweet all the sponsors and stuff like that. And then maybe it's something that the sponsors take action. Who knows? You don't know. You don't know when stuff like this is going to happen. Spencer Trainer said, there's something about him pretending to step down that bothers me. I just think that through all of this, he is still obviously running WWE. Stephanie is blatantly a figurehead.
That's why I put the quotations in charge. I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, me neither. But yeah, it's what
I'm gonna be like Pat McAfee. I don't know shit about shit. I love that quote. Sue me. I love that quote. I don't know shit about shit. I feel like I'm gonna put that on my gravestone. Or is it tombstone? Whatever. Grave.
Great.
We call it grave. Gravestone? No. I know it's tombstone, but there's also one with grave, right? There's a version of it with grave.
Yeah, it's gravestone. Gravestone, tombstone. I think that they're like the same thing, right?
Because I always say tombstone, but I know you can also say it's something with grave. Grave what though? Gravestone. Okay, fine. Yeah. Tombstone sounds better though. All right, on my tombstone, I'm gonna put I don't know shit about shit. Dash Pat McAfee circa 2022.
I apologize to
but I'm gonna add to it.
To edit this podcast.
I'm gonna add to it. Died not knowing shit about shit. That's gonna be on my tombstone. So when people pass by, I'm like, "Aw, she died. She didn't know shit about shit."
Oh man, that's so many swears. I thank you, Mr. CJ Lilly, for your series of Ultra Chats as well. Appreciate it.
It doesn't count though because it was a quote from a person in wrestling, and this podcast is about wrestling. So don't get mad at me. Get mad at Pat McAfee. He said it.
I mean, yeah, he's the one that said it.
I'm just quoting him.
And you're the one that repeated it several times.
Because I was quoting him.
Yeah. Editor Vinny will not see it like that. We've got a couple of other Ultra Chats here. Nate S said, we love you, Pete, and got your back. Just happened to be rocking my Choppers shirt today as well. It's Friday, going to be a great day from here on out. Thank you, Nate. Appreciate it, mate. And Deadlock EXE said, I don't want to ask what you're going through right now, Pete, but I hope things improve soon. Thank you so much. It's nothing serious. Just a bad mental health day.
Why are you getting a bunch of love? Damn.
Don't worry about it. It's because people love me, Denise. It's because I'm great. No, appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Honestly, I think we should just wrap the show up there because I got nothing else to say. Stay tuned to WrestleTalk.com for more updates on this when more updates come out, because there will be more updates. Thank you, Denise. Plug your stuff, Denise. Where are people going to find you? I'm assuming you're probably going to have stuff about this all over the place as well.
YouTube.com/Denise Salcedo, Twitter and Instagram @_Denise Salcedo.
There you go. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't. We'll be back tomorrow with a SmackDown and Rampage review. Let's hope that Vince isn't on SmackDown. And we'll see you guys with more content soon. Goodbye. Where's my outro? There it is. Goodbye.